looking at this data, I know when we deliver it, they're going to look at it and go, how come this looks so much better than the other stuff we've done here? So it's, it's probably going to push us into getting an Ultra here pretty quick.
For over 5 years, ROCK Robotic has partnered with over 1,000 clients worldwide, completing over 30,000 jobs from quick turnarounds to the most complex projects. We specialize in aerial and drone LiDAR hardware and software backed by our ROCK Pro Services team, processing over 1 million acres of data with expert QC/QA for precise, high-quality results. Based in the US, our industry-leading customer success team works as an extension of your crew, hands-on from the first flight to final deliverable. No matter the scale or challenge, we're by your side, ensuring you capture the exact data you need to succeed.
The Ultra is officially landed in Canada. Welcome back to the ROCK Ultra Demo Tour, where professionals in surveying and geospatial services put the new ROCK Ultra LiDAR to the test. We talk about the experience, the workflow, and most importantly, the data. Today, I'm joined by Vashaun Henderson, Operations Director of Rekon Solutions in British Columbia, Canada. Before we get into his Ultra experience, let's start with a little background. Vashaun, tell us about your business and what you do.
Yeah, so Rekon Solutions is a drone service provider. Our big focus is collection of LiDAR data for topography in British Columbia, Canada. And it's a small business. There's only 2 of us. And we like to keep it that way, keep the quality tight, be very personable with our clients, and we honestly don't want to have a massive team. So, that's a big part of why we look for, devices like the Ultra that can perform and do a lot of work with not too many people on the ground.
Absolutely. And we could totally relate to you over here at ROCK Robotic, because we are also a smaller boutique team, and we like that. We definitely do. So could you tell us about the project site you chose for the Ultra demo?
Yeah, it's actually one of our long-standing legacy clients. We started working with them in 2018. The gentleman is developing a ski resort, and in this instance of our visit, he needed to focus on an area of the mountain where they have some steep terrain, and they have to design an access road to get from the highway that runs between the mountain valley that they have their ski resort located on, up to where their main village area is going to be, and where the gondola to get up to the ski face is going to be.
Okay, great. Good to know. What was the main reason you chose the site for testing?
Yeah, it's a big area with lots of steep slope and tall trees. And typically when we started doing this job, this is in the 2018 2017 era of LiDAR sensors on drones, not a lot of range, which means you have to fly very low and close to terrain, and that makes for very interesting, kind of sketchy flying, right? Being able to have the standoff capability of flying at 400 feet and having a swath that'll allow you to be very productive and covering ground is why we chose this area for using the Ultra, because a typical sensor that you'd have to fly at between 60 to 90 meters at the max, and you really won't be getting the quality you want at 90 meters. You'll still be spending more than a day there. I spent hours flying the site, a few hours setting survey up and things like that, but hours flying. So definitely a productivity gain on it, and just the right sensor for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe go into a little bit more about what you were trying to prove and accomplish with the ROCK Ultra LiDAR in specific, and kind of going into that flight high aspect, and being able to fly it at a higher altitude, and what altitude you did fly it at, and what it was like. What was your experience like flying the ROCK Ultra at that height?
Yeah. So the main goal on this, like we said, for the access road, is we need to get the ground profile in high detail. There's an existing access road and a lot of existing trail networks in this area on the mountain. And for design purposes, the client really needed to be able to see where all of these features on the terrain were. In BC, we got a pretty good mix of different types of species of trees on the slope. So um, the need to get a lot of points per square meter so we can have a high confidence in the data we're delivering in terms of what the ground surface actually is, for the design to move forward and have you know real real data that represents what's in the field, was really important. So that's one aspect of it. Because of the slope of the terrain and the height of the trees, a lot of sensors would have trouble being able to get the density and the accuracy on the ground and maintain a safety margin from the trees. Um, when we first did this site back in 2018, we actually had an incident where we clipped a tree because we were so close. So, and that was flying as far as we could with our sensor. So these margins, if you can have more buffer and still maintain that accuracy that you want, is really important. um, the sensor, the ultra, in this instance, just from the look that we've started to do with the data, was able to deliver 600 plus points per square meter, which is more than sufficient for us to develop a really detailed DEM, digital elevation model, to define that surface. So that part of the project was definitely a huge success from our eyes on that. And the ability to take our equipment out there and fly at a safe height is another huge one. We need to be able to do this every day. The mountains of BC are not like roly poly like you would see in something like Lord of the Rings or anything until you get to Mordor or whatever, and they get super steep. That's more what we got. So that stuff is a day-to-day thing for us, and so standoff capability is huge. Like that, the stress we had in the early days versus what the Ultra was able to give us, flying at 400 feet is just night and day.
Absolutely. So, what really stood out to you about flying at that higher altitude? What was going on through your mind? What level of confidence did it loan you? And just
Yeah.
kind of walk me through it, being out there in the field and flying the job and being able to put it up that high in the sky.
Yeah, it's a force multiplier. It's definitely a huge a gain in productivity and a gain in assurance of what you're doing and the ability to cover more ground. I'm not sure about the regulations you have in the US, but in Canada, visual line of sight is still our primary ability in terms of flying a drone. And so being able to be 400 feet off the ground, not only does it give us that safety buffer we talked about, but it also means that I can see it further from wherever I'm launching from, and I have more flexibility in where I can launch from and still maintain that visual line of sight. Also, it also means that the radial line of sight works a lot better because I'm higher up off the trees. There's not as much interference, and with that ability to cover more ground per pass because the field of view is just opened up as you get higher. I mean, all of it starts to multiply the ability for you to cover more ground in less time. And for a small business, that's huge because my time is spread out between so many different things. So being able to cover multiple square kilometers in hours is, that's great. Maybe I can put more than one of these jobs in a day as opposed to spending multiple days on one job. So
Right.
big, very big.
Yeah, big time. Being able to, accomplish the jobs quicker allows you more time to do more jobs. And to kind of follow up on what you were saying, being able to, put it up that high and still see it is extremely important. And so I'd like to follow up again and just ask you, how did the Ultra shape the way you planned your mission? And talk a little bit more about the time you spent out on the field.
Yeah. So planning the mission, so we use universal ground control, UGCS, to do our mission planning. So we can put in our highest elevation we can fly at now, which is 120 meters, and set the field of view to be 90, which that's what the sensor is, and decide what our percentage overlap needs to be. In this case, we wanted to use a lot of overlap because, like I said, we wanted a lot of detail. So we went to the 60% level of overlap. Um, with those metrics and flying at 5 meters per second, the point densities that we were going to be able to achieve, even still being that high, because usually what happens is most sensors, if they can even reach that far, the point densities start to drop off quite a bit. And that means that you have to sacrifice detail for productivity. But in this case, with that in mind and being able to have that higher detail, higher point density, we were able to push to that height with the flight plan. And so if we're in the office, just getting that plan set out, I mean that took minutes. And in the field to fly this data, it was hours. It wasn't days. So I mean, that's a big difference. So 600 points per square meter plus, and flying at 400 feet with that kind of overlap, not crazy high overlap. And I think we could have even opened it up even more now, seeing the data that we've got. That's that can be even further increased in productivity, which means, depending on what the client wants, we can really cover ground.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the data, we won't tease them any longer. Go ahead and we'll bring that up on the screen, and we'll kind of walk through the data set and talk about what you see, what we see, and focus on how the Ultra helped you perform this excellent data set that you have here and capture this. So what stood out to you most about the point cloud or the data from this flight?
Well, yeah, like I've been saying it, what the detail that we were able to get flying so high was perfect. It was exactly what we needed. You can see from the results of the DEM there is not any loss in the amount of points that were able to make it through to the ground, even though I was flying so high and covering that much ground in a short period of time. Usually when you're flying that high with a drone mounted LiDAR system, and covering that much ground in that shorter period of time, you give up a lot of the penetration through the vegetation to get a clean digital elevation model. So for us to be able to see that out of this system means that it's going to force multiply the ability for us to send just this was just me out there as well. So to put that into perspective, my other pilot, he's currently having his third. He's busy. I went out on site with the sensor by myself. The client was there with me, so we can watch out for grizzly bears. And and I was able to cover this kind of ground in hours with the single drone and the single LiDAR system. So imagine if there was two pilots and two systems, how much ground we can cover using the same base station and kind of moving on through this valley.
Right. Well, did you hear that, everybody? The ROCK Ultra keeps you safe from grizzly bears. It'll help.
Definitely gives you more visibility.
It'll make it so you have less of a chance of being attacked by a grizzly bear because you're saving time. No, that's awesome. And shout out to Jake Mulholland for his participation with the ROCK Ultra 2. We'll give him a little shout out there and wish him well. So what kind of, and we're looking at the surface model, and this is honestly one of the most, stunning surface models that I've seen, like detail wise. It looks absolutely phenomenal. And I just wanted to ask you, what kind of features or the ground detail were you able to capture, and what is standing out to you about this surface model?
Yeah. The big important things on this is that main road that we see coming up and entering into the ski resort area. So that traveling along the hillside, kind of weaving its way along the contour lines, that access road was the most important part of the survey to capture in good detail. And obviously the features in this rocks are in the mountain slope above and below it, and all those little trails we can see around it. Because the focus of the designer on this project is going to be how to twin this road. It's hard to tell when we look at DEMs, the scale of it, but that's a single lane access road up to the ski resort. Right now they need to twin it. And because of the slope and the grade, they can't really open up this road without creating major amounts of stability issues with the steepness of it already. So what they're planning on doing is mirroring that road further up or further down the slope. They need to figure out how and where. And so knowing every little feature on there is super important. We can see there's lots of drainage reliefs. Those are really important. The designer's going to want to know that for where they put in culverts or even jump spans for these roads to have long lifetimes without washout,
Mm.
risk. So those features being in as crisp a detail they are right now is exactly what we needed for this project.
Awesome. Well, we love to hear that. So, how did the Ultra perform in challenging areas like under canopy, steep slopes, or the dense vegetation?
Yeah, I mean the proof is right here in front of us. In this vegetation, it was we were still in the midst of some leaf on, some leaf off. It just started to fall for us here. We had to shoot to get to this project more towards the end of the season, so October, and they're about to get snow now, and I think they've already gotten some snow at the higher elevations. But a lot of the vegetation in this area, like you can see right now in the point cloud, still very much there. So the penetration that we got through that was critical. And we needed that in order to give us this detail. So it's the ultra is definitely performing to give you that penetration you need, while you're still keeping that productivity up. Generally, if you're looking to get this kind of penetration, you usually have to fly low and slow. That was usually the ride. Low and slow if you want this kind of detail. And here I was flying pretty high up and not very slow. I would say
High
our
and fast.
average speed. Yeah, our average speed.
Yeah.
We've flown slower to try to get better penetration with sensors that don't have that same kind of standoff capability. And it's it is brutal on your productivity. You spend days out there just covering this kind of ground with that kind
Mm.
of flight plan. So being able to fly at your average speed, and I bet we could even flown faster in this case, because to me it looks like we probably could have even either opened our swath up or gone a little bit faster. And those are the kind of things you'd start to learn and adjust as you would use a new sensor like this one.
Yeah, and that's a reoccurring theme that people who are doing the Rock Ultra demo tour are saying that I probably could have flown it even faster.
Yeah.
We're hearing that a lot, and maybe speak to some of the benefits of flying it faster and not just getting the job done quicker, but like, what's the difference between flying a job faster and having to fly it slower? What other variables
Yeah.
are involved?
Yeah, I mean, well, so for instance, we're in fall now, right? It's the weather windows here are tight. In the mornings, there's fog. In the evenings, there's usually rain. And in between, you get this sweet little spot where the sun decides to peek its head out and say hi for like 5 minutes. And
Mhm.
if I have to spend, you know, 5 or 6 hours covering an area like this with, the R3 Pro, I'm probably not going to get it. But if I can fly in less than 2 hours and cover this ground going 10 meters per second at 120 meters and with a 50% overlap, I'm going to get it within, that small little window. And that will make or break a project for you. Some projects show up at the end of fall, happens a lot to us, and especially up here north where people are just showing up. They realize, oh my God, snow's coming. I need you to do this. And I need you to do it yesterday. And we look at the weather and we're like, yeah, you actually should have called us a month ago. And so, we head up, sometimes to the Arctic Circle nearly. We're heading up to the Northern Territories and we're on borrowed time. So if we can push areas like this through the pipeline and only have about an hour or two that we actually need of good weather, there's almost no time of year we can't find 1 or 2 good hours in a day.
Mhm.
But if you have to spend an entire day flying, 5 to 10 hours with a lower flight pattern, tighter lines, or slower flight speed, some of those jobs just don't happen. And it's not because we don't want it to. It's just because the weather decides it's not your time anymore. With the Ultra, you can cover this ground, do it fast, shrink your window you need, and now your ability to get jobs done in that fringe season is now there.
Yeah. So the Rock Ultra really works to that benefit of being able to hit that window in that time, in that time period that you have to be able to capture the job in such a short amount of time. That way you're not affected by the sunlight or other weather conditions. and you're able to get it accomplished much quicker. And obviously that leads to having a very happy client who, probably should have called you a month ago to get the project done, but that's the way things work. And they needed it done yesterday. And with the ROCK Ultra, you're able to get it done yesterday. All right, up next, what I want to do is introduce Jamie Lackner from our ROCK Pro Services department. She leads that department, and she is responsible for QC/QAing our data sets that come through and developing the deliverables and the surface model that you see. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Yeah. So, what was it that you saw on this data set, and kind of walk us through some of the work that you did, and in order to get this beautiful, stunning surface model we have here in front of us?
Yeah, this is honestly one of the crispest surface models. So I think the settings, I know, Vashaun, you were talking about, hey, we can fly it faster. I think you really did nail the capture parameters. It made a gorgeous surface model. My jaw literally dropped because I didn't know about all the trail networks underneath the vegetation. I just saw the trees and I was like, okay, let's see what's underneath there. And it was just like, as soon as the kind of all the points went away and it was just the DEM, the digital elevation model, I started jumping up and down. I legitimately, just because full disclosure, like we had to kind of adjust our settings to get this to show properly. It is such a dense point cloud. It is such a we just were like, we need to make sure we show this in its glory, in its full capacity. And we were able to do that thanks to the help of the dev team today. I think it's really cool to be able to see the network, and thank you for kind of talking about what needs to happen for this ski resort to kind of take place, and understanding like what road networks need to kind of come out of this. I also found the drainage paths to be particularly fascinating. I thought this one over here, where we even almost have some, I know this isn't necessarily the capture area, but I just thought it was crazy. We even had some almost sheer cliff faces in this drainage spot as we get down towards the main road. So those are some of the things I noticed. I also found it to be, like I said, yes, also saw how the point density, you're going to be able to get these high quality models when you are capturing that many points, which, yes, is just in most other sensors, when you're going above those heights, anything above 90 meters, you're like, okay, well, I hope for the best. And so this is a great example of kind of showing the ultras like prowess at these heights, these speeds, and these capture parameters. So honestly, it was a pleasure to work on this.
Well, happy it.
No, I was stoked. It was so cool. I politely, I was geeking out about it. As someone who worked not necessarily in British Columbia, but has worked on the western side of North America and seen how drastically these elevations do change, and the need for where safety is paramount in these very narrow roadways, to see something like this and to understand the impact that this data set, potentially has, is huge. And I don't know, I just, again, breathtaking.
Yeah, it really is one of the cleanest and most crisp surface models. And I'm not just saying that because we're trying to make a good case study, but Jamie, when you sent the video over and I was looking, and kind of exploring the data myself for the first time, I was like, wow, that's really, really capturing the details very, very crisp, and being able to fly it, at 400 feet and fast with the 60% overlap and be able to capture this. It's a phenomenal result here that we have in front of us. So we're really excited about this, and we love geeking out about this stuff because, well, we're LiDAR nerds, and that's what we do. And it makes us happy to see this, kind of data come through, and to be able to be a part of it. And Vashaun, I'll ask you, what has your experience been working with, ROCK Pro Services, and just working with ROCK Robotic in general? How has ROCK supported your projects in the past?
Yeah. Well, we've been with ROCK for a while. We have R2As, we have R3 Pro, and we got to take this for a test run. So we've been using ROCK equipment since, I think, 2021. In that time, there's been plenty of support from people, either technical sensor questions. I mean, we in BC, we've been stress testing back since the R2A days and flying mountains that, climb into the air 1.5 kilometers and flying these big data sets of things. And, all our shaking the bolts loose and figuring out where the limits are have made us, acutely aware of being able to reach out to you guys and ask questions and get some solid answers and to move forward. And then obviously being able to get a look at the ultra and basically it kind of shows up the data we've done before in this area, to be honest. Like our DMs have never looked that good in this area. It's been a arduous process of flying this kind of terrain with sensors that can't go as high and cover as much ground. And looking at this data, I know when we deliver it, they're going to look at it and go, how come this looks so much better than the other stuff we've done here? So it's, it's probably going to push us into getting an ultra here pretty quick.
Well, we love to hear that. One of our other case study clients said that their clients were asking for them to go refly previous missions with the sensor to make sure that, it was so got the work cut out for them, reflying previous jobs. But hey, I think that's a good sign when your clients, want you to use a specific sensor for the job and that, they're seeing the results and just really happy with it. And, that just makes everyone involved feel like the mission is a success. And I think that's overall such a great feeling when you're turning something over to your clients that they're happy with. There is no better feeling when it comes to work. So Jamie, thank you so much for hopping on. We really appreciate you and your feedback. And you did a really amazing, excellent job with this behind the scenes. I want to give a big shout out to Jamie. She has been working hard and late and making sure that it was done on time. She has a lot of things on her plate and she did a really, really phenomenal and excellent job with this. So thank you, Jamie. We appreciate that.
Thank you. I can't do my job until the flying is done. So the capture is everything. The sensor is everything. So honestly, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll get back into the capture aspect. I wanted to ask Vashaun, from field to finish, how did using the Ultra affect your entire workflow?
Well, honestly, since we're so tied into ROCK systems and the R3 Pro, we really didn't have to change the way we do things very much at all, because it works just like the R3 Pro. And that, we got Jake walking in.
What's up, Jake?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Not too bad, man.
Welcome to the chat.
Yeah.
Fashionably late. Better late than never, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations on your third.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a busy week.
I bet it has.
Mm-hmm.
I bet it has. So let's talk a little bit about the post-processing and not just with, the Ultra data here, but just your experience using the ROCK Cloud. What's that like?
Well, I guess I can't speak to that too much. We don't use the ROCK Cloud very much. So we just do a lot of our processing internally. But I mean, from the results that I can see here from what Jamie's done, it looks like we might have to revisit that and kind of kick the tires on it because the data looks amazing. And, and it was turned around in, I think, less than a week than when we delivered it because we sent it over days ago. So, as far as that experience goes, I would say probably have to look at that and see if we can't get Jamie on speed dial.
You definitely can. That is available. And yeah, come on over to the ROCK Cloud side. We'd be happy to have you. It's really, really phenomenal and easy to use software. I'm not a geospatial professional. I'm a marketing guy, but I tinker around in the ROCK Cloud and it's, being able to just get stockpile measurements with clicking around. Like it's so easy and simple and intuitive to use, and our development team does a really great job at making sure that it does exactly what you need it to do, and without having to think too hard about it. So definitely consider, and we'd love to have you over there. So let's talk a little bit more about the Ultra workflow. What was the easiest or most enjoyable aspect?
Yeah, I would say the fact that we can just basically, fire it up with the one button. I like to use the app on the DJI pilot or DJI RC to initialize scanning and from calibration, figure eights, and then setting it off on its automated flight, you're talking minutes. And if we go back to the early days of LiDAR, in our 2017, 2018 days, we used to have to plug a laptop into something. There used to be a software involved and really fiddling. And, it was limited in how long you could run the system for as well. So, with the Ultra and, even the R3 Pro are very similar. You can run these logs for an hour. I understand even more now, potentially with the Ultra, if you adjust the settings. So, that for us, especially with, a limited amount of crew in the field, making things easy and efficient with a little as time as possible needs to be invested, little equipment as possible needed on the site. That's huge, and the Ultra is following in the path that's been laid, from the R2A and the R3 Pro days. So it's continuing to be very efficient to deploy, quick to mount to the M300, M350 platforms. I didn't see anything that affected us in that way for this job at all. And obviously the data is kind of proving that as well. Everything works seamlessly. LiDAR data is kind of like a proofs in the pudding kind of thing. If something's not working well, you will see it in the data.
That's absolutely correct. It is very much a proof in the pudding situation, proof in the surface model pudding. Jake, I gave you a shout out earlier when you weren't here. Just wanted to maybe get your insight in what you're thinking and what's on your mind. Maybe talk a little bit about, maybe introduce yourself first, and we'll kind of add this in here at the end, and people can know who you are and what role you play at Rekon, and what was your Ultra experience like?
Hi, I'm Jake from Mulholland. I'm Vashaun's business partner, and yeah, that's the role that we play here. We're both operations directors, so we're both kind of different skill sets, but we've kind of been working towards being two entities that can kind of run in different directions and cover the same and double the ground that we can cover, because the jobs that we get are spread all over Western Canada. So, if you get a call on in Alberta at the same time you get a call in northern BC, then you can hit both of those in a good weather window, right? So, yeah, my experience with the Ultra was, I guess, limited, just because of the timing that it worked out. We got it basically 4 days before my third child was born, so it was a bit of a not sure how many jobs I can go away on. I had to kind of stick close to home, so that kind of put Vashaun in the driver's seat for doing most of the testing on his own. But yeah, I got some hands-on with it, and I got to watch it in action. It's an impressive system, given the fact that it's the productivity increase while not, I guess, doubling the form factor or the weight factor. So your productivity on even the 300s is still quite impressive. And I'm still looking forward to digging into the data a little bit more from what I've seen. It's an impressive system, and it definitely punches above its predecessors. So
Above its weight class. Almost.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the heavyweight.
It's a heavyweight, lightweight body.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Vashaun. So, Vashaun, I'll ask you this. If you could describe your Ultra experience in one word or phrase, what would that be?
Yeah, one word. If I had said one word, I'd be impressive. But if I gave you a sentence, or a phrase, maybe I'd say productivity enhancer, maybe. Or in this case, it also enhances our accuracy while increasing our productivity. It's a force multiplier. How about that? It definitely is a force multiplier. We saw it before when the ROCK came out with their R1A, R2A systems. That was a force multiplier of its day, a big disruptor, and it looks like the Ultra is that next wave of what the ROCK seems to like to do, which is shake things up and open up new realities, new abilities.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Vashaun and Jake, for your time and being part of the Canadian branch of the ROCK Ultra Demo Tour and kicking that side of it off for us. We're really excited to have gotten the device and over to you, and we're happy that you're happy and that we think your clients will be happy as well. So thank you so much for flying the ROCK Ultra and helping us put together this excellent case study.
Our pleasure.
Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. All right, guys, same place, same time next week. ROCK Ultra Demo Tour. Be here. All right, guys, we're going to keep it rolling for